Hey guys, this is the Geek Dhaba, and we are here to review one of the probably the best seasons that Castlevania has dropped on us. And wow, it was just like one amazing wrap to a very very good season, I would say, and to an entire series, as a matter of fact. As much as I would miss it, I really like where they wrapped it up, and like honestly, there are no words. There are literally no words. We're gonna start from the very beginning, like how we see Trevor and Sypha just going through these weekly demonic meetings, if you will. Like they have to meet, and I wouldn't say meet, but like fight and just go through different places until they end up in
Yeah.
Wallachia. And I think the highlight of all of that is just Sypha starting to swear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good
Yeah.
character development.
When that happened, I was half expecting Trevor to go all Captain America and say language,
No, if
even
anything,
though he's not the sort.
if anything, Trevor was proud. Like, oh my god, yes, this is what I
Yeah.
wanted. But what did you guys think? Like, it was like very, I wouldn't say ironic, but it was kind of like very good story writing, I would say, like how they start connecting all the pieces back to where it all began. And personally, that's what I love
In
about stories as
Targovishte.
well. Takovishte and everything. But what are your thoughts, Mubarak? What did you think?
I think this was a very satisfying end to the series. This season was really nice, well done. It covered everything. It tied up most of the loose ends. It was nicely done. Samin?
Yeah, again, what Mubarak said, like it was satisfying. They covered all the remaining storylines. They ended everything. It was a satisfying good end. Like, there's no thank God, there's no cliffhangers, but they still did leave a possibility, like in case they ever do like a continuation of a future generation, maybe of Treffy,
The
the
Treffy,
sci-fi
exactly.
Treffy. Yeah, so maybe sci-fi and Trevor's son, grandson, or maybe some other generation down the line teams up with Alucard in the future. They've left it open, and then of course we're expecting a multiverse as well. So let's see what happens. But yeah, it was an excellent ending.
Yeah.
After what the end, the horrifying things that they left us with at the end of season three. Yeah.
I lack the words to say just how well balanced this entire season was. Every character got closure. And I have to be an extremely nitpicky person to find just one thing wrong with this series, which I would have personally just hoped to see different. By far, he's my favorite character in this entire
Yeah.
season. His story arc was amazing, and my favorite episode is always going to be Isaac's assault on Carmilla's mountain fortress. That final fight with Carmilla was the pinnacle of animation. The color of blood on the ground, Carmilla's red attire, and the blending with
Mm.
the blue suit, the robe that Isaac wears was fantastic. And I have to be extremely nitpicky to say we have in the previous season Isaac being this revenge fueled monster, and in this season he was immediately from the first off. We have that night creature going up and talking to him, and like he's already changed into this calm and well more enlightened person, someone who has learned a thing or two after fighting that sorcerer. um I have to be extremely nitpicky to say I kind of would have liked to see a little bit about how a little bit of how that development or how that change happened. It
I
kind of
think it's
happened.
I wouldn't say it kind of happened out of the blue. It's just kind of like it's a thing that's just been ongoing. It's just a
I mean, the
few
way they did it,
pieces.
the way they did it, I don't have a problem with it. It's still done so well. I'm
Yeah.
saying that I have to be extremely nitpicky. I have to be that one person who has to ruin the series by bringing that one negative point that everyone will point me out of. But really, I'm going to say it myself. This show, it's really hard to find anything wrong with it. Every character was so well balanced in the way their story is dealt with and given closure in the end. You don't feel like any character has unanswered questions left, anything is left to the blue. Like Samin said, there are no cliffhangers. And as a matter of fact, like the second nitpicky point, I'm a man of emotional. I like to cry at the end of season, so I would have liked to see Belmont dead. When he came back, I was kind of see, yes, Amin's making that face. I was kind of hoping that they don't do that, but they did that. I don't have a problem with that. But then someone
They
else
went
is alive,
they gave a Disney
and
death.
yeah,
They gave him a Disney death.
I did not want to see that. But then again, the fact that uh, two favorite characters are actually back and they have left a little bit of an opening for themselves to take it further if they want to. I actually like it. This is, in order, as a finale, this is one of the most well balanced and best finales that I have seen. It gives closure to everything, and I don't really have anything else to say about it except that I absolutely loved this this binge that I did in one day so that I can prepare for this episode.
It's kind of like you're
Exactly.
hooked. You can't just you can't just leave it. Like, you're like, oh damn, this is happening now. Okay, we're going here. I want to know more. So here you are, just
Yeah.
like binging at 4 a.m. Even though you have work at 8 a.m. You're like, you know what? Just
Yeah,
4 hours of sleep.
exactly.
We can make it. We can make it happen.
Yeah, like I started at 12 a.m. At night, and then I was done by 6:30. Like
Yeah.
when the team up happened, when our golden trio finally met up at the end in episode 9, I was silently
Oh
screaming
my
at 5
god.
a.m. in the middle of the night, in the morning around dawn. I was screaming like,
Yeah. But we're gonna come to that later. We're gonna dedicate an entire segment just to that reunion because that is something being worth talking about. But I would just like to continue the conversation, like what Amr said about
long
Isaac.
waited. Yeah.
No, what about Isaac? Because Isaac had
Mm-hmm.
a very monumental development. Like he went from a guy who hated human
Hmm.
beings, and then of course you see the first
Hmm.
development come when he talks to that captain in season 3, and the captain says like, "Yeah, okay, humans are shitty,"
Flies eyes.
and yeah, exactly. And he's like, "Yeah, humans are shitty and everything, and you can pretty much kill all of them, but in doing so, you will sort of eliminate human kindness as well." So it's kind of like the show establishes that there's no black and white. There's always a gray area in which you operate. Dracula wasn't exactly the evil guy everybody made him out to be. He was motivated by something, but inside, and I will just throw in the thing that Alucard says, like, this is probably history's longest suicide note because Dracula actually wanted somebody to end him. So that you have that
Yeah.
moral gray area as well. So I think this show plays along those lines so much. You see Carmilla, and in the same way, because we thought that, oh, Carmilla is all about taking, and then Carmilla sort of reveals how in the universe of Castlevania she was
How she was
once
driven
a
to that point.
victim. Exactly,
Yeah.
like how she had sorted help. She wanted to protect her
Mm.
sisters. She wanted to live a life, but then of course the men have taken all of that away from her. And I think
Mm.
this is a very strong point in terms of the modern day feminism and everything. Like, okay, Carmilla isn't, I wouldn't say she was a
She's not doing
bad
it for the
person.
heck of it, but she's
Yeah,
been forced into it at the end.
yeah, exactly. It's kind of like you
Like,
have you kind of have like a yin and yang situation. Like, of course, she could have done it differently. What she's doing isn't right, but we kind of understand where she's coming from now. And she's like, yeah, whatever was taken from me, I will get it back, and I will want it more. And you can see like she's not just gonna stick to like Europe or Wallachia or whatnot. She's gonna go like way beyond.
One tiny nitpick I had was until episode 8, the storylines felt very isolated and everything was like in different compartments. And then like in episode 9, everything just comes together. Like you understand what's going on now.
Mm.
And then I feel like episode 9 felt tiny bit rushed, with the main villain. And
It was a bit. It
yeah,
was. I
like
do
it
agree.
was.
It was.
Yeah.
the one other tiny nitpick Why isn't day armor standard equipment for all vampires?
No idea. Maybe it's
Because it's
rare.
Carmilla's
expensive to
sister,
make.
I mean, there's like
It's
one
pretty
day
freaking
armor, and
rare.
she goes. I'm just like, why is that not standard equipment? Like, you'd think that they've been around for so long, they would have come up with some solution, but no,
It could be
no day armor.
expensive. It could
Who-
be magic powered.
No, but here's the thing, like, is it Striga's own armor or did she get it from somewhere else or what? So we don't know anything about it. Like, it just popped up out of nowhere
Yeah,
and
that
then
was
get in the
actually
trunk.
out of nowhere. Yeah, and what's more is like, if you
But the thing
notice,
is, we
Striga's,
haven't seen Striga fighting before, no? This was
yeah,
like, I think the first time that we've seen her properly on a battlefield, and it just so coincidentally happened to be in the daytime. So
yeah,
maybe
that's
if we
true.
had seen her fighting more,
No, that's
but
true. And
because
also
that thing just popped out of nowhere.
Striga's armor is a bit more elaborate as compared to the other vampires, because the other vampires of the cavalry, they emerge too, but they have more
Hmm.
hoods and they have a more,
It
I
was
would say,
more
low
clothing
quality
based.
armor. Yeah,
It
exactly.
was
It was
more fabric
more,
based, yeah.
yeah,
But then again, we did see like when they returned to the castle just after like Camilla died. So they were wearing armor, like proper battle plate armor. So again, they were ambushed in the middle of the daytime. They weren't in armor at that time. So
yeah,
when they do come out to fight, they're just wearing fabric outfits.
In a situation like that, I guess like you would just throw on whatever you have
Mm.
lying around and quickly get into the fight because they were ambushed in their own camp. Generally, history lesson incoming, not everyone could afford the same armor. So I'm guessing there are different parallels to different vampires because not everyone was on the same level and making plate armor for everyone would have been expensive. Day armor, the one that Striga wears, it's very ornate and very elaborate, like you say.
Mm.
So it's probably really difficult to make as well. So I'm guessing that's why not everyone had it, but everybody had different solutions. Yeah, there is like this one because there, the part where they come back to the castle, everyone is wearing the same armor. um I guess I can nitpick that little piece that maybe they should have shown different varieties, a little bit of variation, because it's always
Mm.
nice to see that, and that is how it used to happen in our histories uh, as well. So
Yeah.
when they came out to fight, and some of them were actually wearing helmets, some of them were wearing breastplates and whatnot, and some of them were wearing hoodies and with a ninja mask when they
Yeah.
rally to Striga to fight back against those attackers. I actually
Yeah.
like that variation. But yeah, as far as armor is concerned, I guess that's all I can add to
I
that.
really noted how, if you notice, like how everybody in Carmilla's ranks, they are sort of second guessing, like, okay, what are we doing here? Like you go from Lenore to Striga to what was the third one's name? I'm forgetting right now.
Morana. Morana.
Morana, yes. So
Moran.
it's like everybody's questioning, like, what's happening right now? And Striga, being the soldier, she sort of starts to understand, like, like, hey, these are just farmers who are just,
Kuro, stop it.
and
Sorry.
there is
It's okay.
we have a special guest here, Kuro, who is the black cat, and not to be confused with Kuro from Ori and the Blind Forest. So no, as I was saying, like I think that's where you see the character development happen. Like
Mm.
how everybody's thought process is just starting to change, and even Lenore herself is very very scared. Like when she hears the whole plan, like okay, it's not Europe, it's India, it's the Africas, it's everywhere
Yeah.
that Carmilla wants to
Yeah.
take over, and the magnitude of it, even though not wrong per se. I mean, if I was Carmilla, I would do the same,
Mm.
but the magnitude of it scares her, like okay, she is probably becoming mad or something of the sort. But
Even before that, like even before Camera revealed her plans, like from the very starting of the season, Lenore's feeling quite useless. Like her diplomacy and her politics are not needed anymore. It's all like on a war footing right now, no?
it's
So
not even a
even
war at
before,
this point,
even
it's like
before,
genocide right now.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So before even that, like before feeling scared, she was feeling useless and like not needed. So she's going through a range of emotions and feelings, Lenore
Yeah,
especially.
Speaking of Lenore, we have to talk about Hector as well because we see Hector has had a
Exactly.
plan. I was like, you know what, that's the best thing I wanted to for Hector because he was like, you know
Yeah.
what, you guys used
Yeah.
me, you guys used my emotional weakness to exploit me like you did in the last season, and if I was in his shoes, I would be exploited as well in the same way.
Yeah.
But I
But
really
his
like how he had a
sneakiness
plan all along.
was very impressive. Yeah. His sneakiness was impressive. Like even when the start when he
Yeah.
was putting those little stones in the cracks and everything, that was interesting. Like he's biting back.
Yeah. And you know the whole
Yeah.
deal with like yeah, my hammer is taking time. I mean, come on, that's Hector we were talking about. How is it possible that his hammer would
Yeah.
take time? And I was just like, okay, I'm in for it. I love a good I wouldn't say revenge story, but like a comeback story. Like in this case, Hector would be like, okay, fine. You guys used me. Okay, cool. You got one on me. Now I'm going to go to work. And then he does. And there was a tense moment between
Yeah.
Isaac and Hector, and I was like, no, man, come on. I
Yeah.
really don't want them to kill each other because, you know, they both have grown on me in a different sort of way. But then, of course, they have a
Yeah.
really mature talk and they just talked it out and everything. And he's like, yeah, Carmilla's that way. This is the bridge. Take it. Best of luck. And then, of course, we see what happens.
A- And from the earlier seasons, their development from frenemies to now, I guess, genuine friends,
Respecting
respected.
mutuals.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. They that really, good stuff, yo. It really
No,
had that
but
weight. Like, yes, there is development. This didn't just come out of nowhere.
mm,
It made
exactly.
sense. Yeah,
The characters didn't develop just individually, but also like on a
together.
together. And again, Hector's revenge on the Styria Council, like the phrase "revenge is a dish best served cold," that comes to mind. Like he's
Yeah.
been planning this a while.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree. And since we're talking like character wise, of course, we talked about Trevor and Cypher a little bit, but we really need to talk about Cypher a little bit because Cypher just cranked all
Av-
the way up to
Avatar
11.
Saifa. I have been calling her
Avatar
Avatar
Cypher.
Saifa. Like she just went all out this season. Like I think a friend of mine has been playing the games, and they said that traditionally the women in the Castlevania series have always been more powerful than the male characters, and they really showed it here in Saifa's case.
I think in Cypher's case, it was more towards like, you know, how we see, okay, she starts off with this really disciplined sorcerer slash, you know,
Mm. Slightly
scholar and
sheltered as
everything.
well.
Yeah, slightly
Slightly
sheltered as
sheltered
well.
as
But
well.
as the
Yeah.
seasons progress, she sees the dark side of the world and she's like, okay,
Mm.
uh, this is a battlefield and anything goes. There are no rules, there's no respectful elements here, anything. This is blood
Yeah.
or it's
Like
either be
yeah,
killed or kill.
like the opening of this season, the very first scene when we're introduced to Cypher and Trevor. It's their last scene from the previous season. Like when Trevor says, "Okay, we've been living in your adventures, but now we're living in my world." After all the horror from the previous season that they went through. So
True.
that's like the contrast. And now that Cypher's part of this world and she's been introduced to those horrors, she has done a lot of growing up.
True.
And that's taken a toll on her. Like in the beginning, you can
Yeah.
see that the
Yeah.
relationship is slightly strained because of all
Mm.
the weekly
Yeah.
demonic
And the fit.
encounters.
Yeah.
They're just like tired
Yeah.
at this point, and it
Yeah.
really shows in their character.
I
Interactions
mean,
as well.
Yeah.
They're fatigued and they're pissed off overall.
Mm.
But the good thing is that they're not taking it out on each other because that would affect their teamwork.
okay, so I think we have to talk about the main guy. I mean, Alucard, of course, the one we were very scared of because of what happened in the last season. But thankfully,
Sumi
he
and Taka,
doesn't.
like yeah.
Taka and Sumi, what they did. I mean, okay,
Mm,
that's like a situation escalated out of control. Like, okay, you're like, okay, fine,
that
I'm
was
happy for the guy. He's getting some me time, but then it just escalates like anything. But thanks to the trusty sword for coming in exactly at the
thank
opportune
God.
time. And then, of course, we see Alucard coming out, and I'm just like, oh God, is he evil? What is he right now? And everything. But it seems like he's pretty much becoming Trevor Belmont then.
Losing brain cells to become a
and
bell.
and 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 being drunk all the time,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
he
like
drowning his sorrows.
it did take a few people or few things, they weren't exactly people, to
Mm.
suffer the bad end of Alucard before it happened. You can see more stakes outside the castle before he sees this horse ride up with a rider. And I think the main, the thing that happened was when he saw, oh, you kept on riding despite the
Yeah.
immense pain just to bring me this message. And I guess that kind of made him like, okay, I should not be this person anymore. And then he goes to
yeah.
help that village.
Like other people have it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like how
And
everybody just has the address of his castle, like the Alucard castle beside the river. It's
the
the whole
Alucard.
address, the
The
Alucard, and he's
Alucard.
like the Alucard. He is majorly triggered at that. I was like, that's my name.
And
That's not
first
a
first
title.
thing he says when he meets Greta is it's Alucard, no the.
No, no. I mean, James Callis, who is the voice actor for Alucard, I mean, he really blew it out of the park in this case because
He
you
did a
notice like
phenomenal
how
job.
how at the start he's a very like young sort of voice, like very full of energy, but then as the season progresses it becomes like a very low whisper, very serious and everything. I mean, you hardly hear him shout at all in this season, even when Saint
Overall,
Germain
I
is.
think I think overall, in the whole series, all four seasons, he hardly shouts. Like even when he's fighting with Belmont, there
Yeah,
he's always whispering, and Trevor's the one raising his voice.
yeah, that's true, that's true. And what's more is like, you see Alucard actually starting to bond as well, because of course he has this major trust issue, which is not without reason, but
But it's repairing.
it's
It's
repairing. And then of
healing.
course Greta comes in, and I seriously liked Greta. I wish we could have had a little bit more of a backstory for her, but I like how she is finally appealing to his human side.
And the one thing that I found really cute was in the last episode when she tells Alucard, "I think I might like you." Like that's the same line that Lisa told to Dracula when they first met.
Oh yeah, that's a good observation. That's a good
Yeah.
observation.
Yeah.
I mean, the
It
foreshadowing
felt
has been
familiar.
there. The
It felt
parallels have been
familiar,
there.
so I had to go back and double check.
What was
Yeah.
amazing was Alucard's power development. Like he really took it up to 10,
Yeah.
his fighting, his all those
Shape
tricks and
shifting.
everything. Yep. Shape shifting, like
Yeah,
something that wasn't
yeah.
used before. The wolf and
No,
then the bats.
It was
the wolf
slightly.
happened. The wolf happened in the previous season. I can't remember exactly which season it was,
It was
but
season one.
the
It was
cape,
season
the
one.
cape turning, yeah, the cape turning into wings, his bat form, those were new
Those were new.
Yeah.
And I
because his
was just
speed and
like,
his wolf form we've seen before.
yeah, and
Well,
this was something that
I
I
may
ranted to
have
Sameen
missed
as
that.
well about. This was something I ranted to Sameen as well about, because in the entire jungle, when he's taking the villagers to his castle, I'm like, bro, you didn't think of that before? Like, you could
No,
shapeshift, and it took
but the thing is,
Sypha
he
and
had
Trevor
so many
coming in.
civilians to. No, but he had so many civilians at that time to protect. Like maybe if he
I'm
was focusing on using his powers and fighting some, maybe the villagers could have been attacked from some other side. So
Yeah,
he was doing
that's
an
fair.
all-around thing.
One other slight power inconsistency is his hearing. Like when he's at the village and he's listening that there are people coming, he could hear it from so far away. But then when Saint Germain is right behind him whispering his plan, he didn't hear that. And I'm like, what happened to your hearing then? It's like he's right
I
behind you.
I think
He
it's
was
more of like
distracted
a
by the
heightened.
sexy. He was
Yeah.
distracted by the sexy. Greta was
Maybe.
right.
True.
But speaking of Saint Germain, oof,
Yeah.
that guy
Oh, yeah.
this season,
Like, I
really
mean,
interesting. Like I
very,
was
very
hooked.
interesting character. I mean, you hate him, you love him, and that's the kind of character which makes a mark on you right there and then. Like, of course, when we are talking about Saint Germain, we have to talk about Varney as well.
Yeah.
Um,
And the
like,
big reveal.
and the big reveal, but we're going to come to that later. We're going to talk about a little
Yeah.
bit about Saint Germain, because I mean, it was interesting, like how we see, like, in season 3 he was more of this guy who just had a very, very strong motivation. Like, okay, he has a lover, who's lost in the infinite corridor, and he wants to go get her. Pretty much simple, straightforward. Of course, he has to rely on some trickery, but then, of course, he's misled by Varney himself. So, I mean, it goes to show, like, no matter how many kings you serve, end of the day, you're still human. Another thing that I wanted to bring up was Varney's reveal, eventual reveal, because at this point, we all thought that he was just like another fodder vampire at this point.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, hey, I am death. And I'm like, whoa, where did that come from?
Out of
Like
nowhere. Like
out
again,
of nowhere.
what Mubarak said previously, episode 8 was rushed.
9.
This
Oh,
was
sorry.
Yeah.
9,
9.
yeah.
No, but his reveal as death came at around the end of
9.
8, I think. Yeah.
No, I think it was 9 because that
It,
was when everything happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
10
in
was the
the
Yeah,
free.
but basically, yeah, it was a little rushed.
mm-hmm.
Like, hello, here's death. Hello, here's the team up. And what?
But I liked
Like
how they brought Castlevania as one of the most iconic villains of Castlevania, and they did him justice. I mean, of course, he doesn't have to be
Yeah.
around as Death, but he was pulling the strings all along, and he knew what he wanted to do. So I
Yeah,
mean,
even the alchemist inside
वैसे
the infinite corridor
वै-
was him.
वैसे
yeah,
in his defense, I mean, a vampire like Varney, who was like your run-of-the-mill grunt, or at least he feels like that. How the hell can this guy survive
Hmm.
for so long? I mean, he keeps saying, "I've been along for this long time."
Yeah.
It just
I
doesn't
was part of
seem.
Dracula's first court.
I was part of his first court. I was around when he sent me to take the city for him, and blah blah blah, like whatever he was talking about. But if he had been around for that long, I guess it makes sense. There were, I guess, hints that this guy might turn out to be more than what think about him, and he actually turned out to be way more,
way
way
more.
more.
And
That
you
was
know,
a proper
all
boss
along,
fight kind of scene.
yeah, I
Oh,
agree. And before we go to the boss fight, we have to talk about the guy who fights the boss, Trevor freaking
Tre-
Belmont. I mean, they were like,
Treffy.
okay, we want Trevor to have the center stage when it comes to the finale, and they did him justice. I
yes.
yeah.
mean, like it was sweet, like the Morning Star whip, everything
Yeah.
combined, and his weapons. It was beautiful. It was utterly beautiful.
Basically, like when we first met him back in the start of season 1, compared to what he did now, like he's gotten his redemption from being banished from the Belmont family.
Yeah,
He's
I mean,
gotten his redemption.
if his ancestors could see him now, they would be really proud of him.
Yeah.
Like,
They
yeah,
would be.
okay,
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
guy
think about it.
banished death itself.
He does
Mm.
that, and here's the thing: he does that. He collects all those weapons that he needed.
Yeah, the little bits and pieces from
And
the
we're
Yeah.
just
Jaguars to underground court.
I will never. My favorite dialogue from Sci-Fi
Yeah.
when she's
Yeah.
doing that, and Sci-Fi is like, "Will you stop farting around? Is that what you think I'm doing?" And he's just taking junk out of that treasury, or at least we think it's junk. It also turns out to be a really powerful weapon which he uses to defeat a
It's the
almost
holy
godly
dagger.
spiritual thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
the
the holy
dagger, and he
dagger
finds.
that he says, yeah. And he does the exact Skyrim kind of move. Like, okay, you know what? Blind or stun the guy, you know, go blindside him, and then of course just stab him right there. That's like a very classic textbook Skyrim move right there. Like, okay,
Stealth
hit him first,
increased to
and then
100.
stealth increase to
I mean,
100 exactly.
yeah, exactly. Are you in Assassin's Creed when you're like assassinating them from above? Because I rarely use that kind of tactic in Skyrim.
Yeah, you kind of go mass murder. Like, yeah, if a thing requires stealth, you would not do that. Actually, you would
I'm sorry,
instead go
what
guns blazing.
stealth? Exactly.
Yeah. But I think
What stealth?
what stealth indeed. But
Mm.
I think the thing that we need to note, and we're just going to go back to Saint Germain, is his redemption. Because even though he realizes what he has done, he's like, okay, I have a last chance at redemption. So I'm gonna throw them all in the infinite corridor.
Yeah.
And
I saw that happening. It was like because they focused at the key just before Trevor does the jump. I'm like,
And
yep,
And
something's
his
gonna
finger
happen.
moved and touched the key, and then the key started glowing. Like it was a split second, but it was there. Like
You could see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
you could hardly notice it. You have to be really paying attention. Thank God we were.
Yeah. And even if you notice, like if you go back to that scene where he stabs death, there's of course the moment where everything just fades to like the pencil sketch kind of a layout and everything. So you can see the exact moment Belmont is just pulled right into the corridor before
Yeah.
death just
Yeah,
explodes.
the multicolored opening diamond kind of shape in there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. But overall, that boss fight was just like
And
any boss fight that you have ever seen.
The
speak
final boss fight.
You know,
yeah.
this is where that adaptation, the video game adaptation, comes to play. It plays out like a boss fight. Like, you know, at the end of a video game, your final boss, it plays out almost exactly like that. You
Mhm.
like, you know,
Like
that it translated really well.
like since I haven't played the games myself, the Castlevania games, the closest game that I can relate to on a level of a boss fight like this is Dante versus that Sparta statue towards the end of
Fortuna,
Devil May
the
Cry
false
4.
god. Yeah, the false
Oh
god
For the
statue.
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
that
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 one.
I do agree.
Yeah.
That I do agree because the thing is like you know
It
it's just
reminded
this.
me a lot of that.
And then of course we
Yeah.
have to talk about two more people who return from the dead, not just Trevor, but Dracula and Lisa Tepish are there as well. And
He
Yeah.
isn't Dracula anymore.
I mean,
And
yeah,
Yeah,
but
he's
yeah,
Produced
glad.
us
he's
that.
Vlad now.
He's just
Yeah.
Vlad.
And they're moving to England apparently.
Regular old Vlad
yeah.
from Moscow.
Hmm.
And Sameer
I'm
had an
totally
interesting
not that guy
point, by
you're
the way.
thinking about.
Yeah. So and they're moving to England and like like the creators have said that they're planning a multiverse and possibly Devil May Cry is in the work in the plan. So let's see, maybe we find out later, like maybe a few centuries or something later, that Vlad and Lisa have taken on the identities of Sparta and Eva, and they
I
had two
mean,
more sons, Dante and Virgil.
Let's
Mm,
It's anything's a possibility.
I
No,
wouldn't say
no,
that would be
but even
reaching.
other than that,
that would be reaching.
even other than that, like yeah, but even other than that, the possibility of the infinite corridor can
That
even
would be reaching, wouldn't it be?
throw us into a multiverse.
She says yes.
Uh,
Koro says yes.
quite a lot of reach, yes. But
Yeah,
again,
but again,
the infinite
it's not
corridor
without
opens up a lot of
reason.
possibilities.
Yeah, because in the
Mm,
Infinite Corridor, you have other worlds
But
access as
the
well. So you
infinite
have
corridor,
Fortuna. Yeah, you have Fortuna, you
exactly.
have Redgrave City. And the thing was that, the fact that they're moving to England and most of their,
Hmm.
story, the Devil May Cry story, is
Hmm.
supposed to happen in Redgrave City, which is an influence from London City itself. So who knows? We might be looking at that some point in
yeah.
the future. So yeah, we're gonna wrap this up with with our final thoughts. So Mubarak, you go first.
I loved it. I have this as an 8.5 out of 10 for the entire season. I feel like this was a very satisfying, and I am 100% satisfied. Of course, I'm sad it's ended, but I'm
Also
glad they
think so.
did it the way they did.
Yeah.
I was really happy they didn't Game of Thrones did. Apparently, that's something that you guys can agree with.
Don't don't
I
jinx it,
haven't seen
please.
I haven't seen the show,
I
so I have no idea.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I refuse to listen to whatever you're
We
talking
just think
about.
that Game of Thrones sort of never existed. It's kind of like Big Bang Theory right there.
It's
Sorry, not Big Bang
there
Theory.
was
Sorry,
nothing
How I Met
after
Your
Let's
Mother.
season 6. They just
let's
ended it.
pretend that we're missing that all memory of that happened.
Yeah,
Like, anything post season 6 is I have no idea what
Oh
you're
my
talking about.
god.
but yes. I mean, what are your thoughts? Final thoughts for this?
And no, it was quite possibly a perfect ending. Like after so many bad adaptations of video games over the years, like this was satisfying.
Hmm,
So
I
yeah,
do agree.
I would give it a 9, and I'd give it 9. One mark, especially for that team up. Finally, long time coming, and then finally our golden trio reunites.
Yeah, I mean
That
they
was beautiful.
reunited in the best way
Like they
possible.
didn't even need to say anything, and their exceptional teamwork in taking down all the attacking and enemies, like they didn't even have to say anything, and yeah,
They just worked with it. They're like, yeah, we know how
fantastic.
everything
Yeah,
works.
Yeah, exactly. Fantastic teamwork.
Amir,
And Avatar Saifa.
Avatar Sci-Fi.
10 out of 10. Get watching the show. That's all I will say to anyone who comes and asks me about it. I will tell them this is a must watch, especially this season. Yeah, there are a lot of nitpicks, but
Yeah.
there's nothing inherently wrong that would justify us deducting marks. But then again, well, my score is a 10 out of 10. This show is a must watch. If you're on Netflix and you like animated series, watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's it.
I'll just conclude this with my thoughts. Like, I personally am a fan of the voice actors who have worked in this. Richard Armitage, who is,
Thorin
Thorin
Oakenshield.
in Thorin Oakenshield, and who was Trevor, James Callis, who was Alucard, Alejandra Reynoso, who was Sypha. I mean, these guys just knocked it out of the park, literally the trio.
Yeah.
But then, of course, you have Graham McTavish as Dracula as well, and you
Mm.
have the other. I mean, Bill Nye is there as Saint Germain.
Yeah.
That was something that I realized until only now that is the case. But overall, I think they just knocked it out of the park. They really, really dedicated themselves, and holy shit, this was one season that I'm gonna miss. That there's nothing more coming out, but the mark of a good thing is they when they know where to end this. So
Yeah.
my score is
But
pretty
even
much the same.
then, yeah, but like even if it's ended, like it has a huge potential for a rewatch. Like some things you watch one time, you don't feel like rewatching. But this whole series, like from season one to season four, if you feel like going on a binge, you can, and it would still be enjoyable.
Yeah,
Yes.
that I agree. So my final score would be 9, and on an average, I think our scores come out to be somewhere like 9.5 out of 10. So Castlevania, very well done, Adi Shankar and the writer Warren Ellis. These guys knocked it out of the park, I would say. So very well done, Castlevania, and we hope to see more of stuff from you guys.
This
So
universe, yeah,
We
from this
are
bootleg
getting
multiverse.
a He-Man show in the same animation, I believe, right?
I think
That's
so.
going to be
I haven't
something.
searched about it, but
that's. I
apparently
think
Mark
that's
Hamill
different.
is Skeletor. Mark Hamill is
Yeah,
Skeletor in that.
we're looking forward to that. I hope it goes the same route as this. Let's see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's
And
see.
plus, from the same team, we have rumors of a Devil May Cry series coming up.
Yeah,
So let's see how it compares to the older anime for Devil May Cry that we had.
Yeah.
yeah. But with that, we're gonna sign off now. Let us know in the comment section below. What do you think about Castlevania, the series, and what are you expecting in the future? This is Mubarak, Sameen, Amir, and me signing off. Take care. Stay safe, guys. Bye bye.